Hello and welcome to another Keller Williams Realty Technologies presentation. Today we are covering the KWLS, the seller's value proposition. By partnering with real estate portals like Zillow and Trulia from the very beginning, Keller Williams has been able to secure agreements that reinforce our core business values. We believe passionately that agents should be able to market their listings on how they want. We built the Keller Williams Listing System, or KWLS, to give Keller Williams agents the power of choice. And that choice is, if you want to syndicate your listings and decide how you want to position yourself as the expert in the local market, you can. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about what exactly the KWLS is so that you can explain it to your buyers and sellers. There's a couple of things we need to make sure are available so that you can take full advantage of the KWLS. We're going to talk about the KWLS's listing exposure, in other words, everywhere the KWLS ends up showing. And then we're going to discuss the listing landing page. Every KWLS listing gets its own listing landing page. I'm going to tell you all how you could take advantage of that listing landing page and, of course, where you can find it. And then lastly, some additional things that you need to know. All right, let's get started with the KWLS, what it is. The KWLS is also known as My Listings, My Leads, and it is our internet lead routing system. It's really all about building our agent's business, and it's going to build our business by connecting KW.com and Market Center website visitors with our KW agents. That means that we connect them directly with a KW agent if one of their listings is found on any KW source. And we also allow our agents to market their listings and generate buyer leads that go directly to the listing agent. As I mentioned, any listing that's found on KW.com, your Market Center website, any Market Center website, your KW websites, and your KWLS syndicated listings, all of those leads that are captured from those resources will come directly to you. All right, let's talk about some things that you need to make sure you have available in the KWLS. There's three things that we need to make sure are available. The first one is your MLS ID, the second is List Hub enabled, and third is ensuring you have active listings. Let's look at the first, MLS ID. Your office administrator has the ability to add an agent MLS ID to your profile. Now, if you are trying to add a listing to the KWLS and are unable to, chances are pretty good the reason that is because you don't have an MLS ID associated with your profile. This is not available for you to update, so you won't see the update MLS info option. Your office's administrator, that would be the team leader, Market Center administrator, or even assistant Market Center administrator. If you are on this call and you have access to the KWLS, chances are pretty good that this is already completed for you. Next is what we call List Hub enabled. Now, being List Hub enabled is an office opportunity. It is provided by one of our listing syndicate partners, List Hub, and it is a paid service. It is a very inexpensive service, so your Market Center may or may not be a part of the List Hub solution. If it's not, chances are pretty good it's just simply not available in your MLS. Here's one quick way to find out if you have List Hub enabled. Hover over the technology menu, then drop down to the KWLS as I'm showing you here on the screen. Once you do that, you'll be taken to this screen, which is your KWLS listing landing page. It's where you're going to manage your List Hub materials. You'll notice I have a big arrow pointing at the List Hub enabled box. If your Market Center is not List Hub enabled, you simply won't see that box or the term List Hub enabled. If it is and that box is not checked, you might want to think about checking that box, because when you check that box, it will give the opportunity for listings to be fed directly from the MLS into the KWLS, so you only have to enter them once. I have a diagram that will walk you all through that process here in just a moment. Let's talk about the Keller Williams Listing System's listing exposure. So it's important that you know your listing will be found on KW.com. It'll be found on your Market Center's website. It will actually be found on all Keller Williams offices' websites. It will show on all KW websites. And if your KWLS listing meets or exceeds the luxury homes price point that is set in your area, that listing will then show on the luxury homes page. What's important to know about this is anytime your listing is found on any one of these resources, including the luxury homes page, those leads come directly to you. And that's something that you can tell your clients as well. You can explain to your clients that their listing that is entered into our exclusive listing system will not only show on your agent's websites, it will show on every office's website, that's 800 plus websites, and every agent's website, that's 130 plus agents. So your listing is getting a tremendous amount of exposure. David's asking, how do we find the luxury threshold for the office? David, check with your Market Center's administrator or team leader. It's set for most markets. It's typically $500,000 or more. The KWLS will also syndicate to the major syndication companies like Trulia, HomeFinder.com, and Zillow. It's also known that we syndicate to hundreds of other syndication companies, and we're going to recommend that that's not necessarily something that you are going to tell all of your buyers. Now, these syndication companies, for example, HomeFinder.com, will syndicate to hundreds of other syndication companies. And if we tell our sellers that it's going to show up in hundreds of syndication companies, some of them are going to want a list of them. And it's really difficult to provide this list because a lot of times these syndication companies come and go so quickly. So the ones we like to focus on are specifically Zillow, HomeFinder, and Trulia. Let me walk you through the process of an agent adding a listing and then it hitting all of the syndication sites as well as all of your KW sources. Here you are. This is you, the agent. And as an agent, you typically enter your listing into the MLS. Once your listing's entered in the MLS, it will feed to the KW connector powered by ListHub. Now, as an agent, if you don't have the box checked or ListHub connector, then you would enter the listing manually directly into the MLS as well as into the KWLS. Regardless, once that listing is in the KWLS, you'll see that it now syndicates to several of the KW sourced sessions, including KW.com, your KW mobile app. If you have KW Video, you simply enter the listing number in KW Video. It'll pre-populate everything for that featured properties video. If you're using eEdge's My Marketing to market your property through the property flyer, once again, all you need is that MLS number and that will populate the flyers. It also shows up as a featured property on all of your KW websites. From there, we push it to ListHub. Now, ListHub will push to Homes.com, HotPads, HomeFinder.com, and HGTV Front Door, as well as several other syndication companies. The KW connector, or I should say the KWLS, will push directly to Trulia and Zillow. So you see we have direct feeds both to ListHub and to Trulia and Zillow. Those are specifically direct feeds to them. So we have a lot more control and a lot more ability to manage our listings. And I'll explain to you what that means, the power of the KWLS. It's important to know that KW does not or never has syndicated to Realtor.com. That is typically done straight from the MLS. All right, this is KWLS syndication. I showed you the syndication flow, and as we know, these are known as syndication pages. So there's some examples of some syndication pages. At Keller Williams, you as a Keller Williams agent have a huge advantage, okay? And that advantage is being a part of KW and having what we call KW source listings. So let me show you what that looks like. When you have a KWLS syndicated listing, that means that you have an opportunity to display your information, specifically your information about you, and in fact that circle fell down a little bit when I published. It should actually be circled around here, the listing agent. So I'm going to highlight that just for the recording. So once you go here, if you look at that listing agent, when you click on this link right here, Annie Agent, what's going to happen is that is going to take you to a contact page with purely Annie Agent's information, or of course your own listing if this is your own listing. So that is a huge advantage that is showing. Now let me show you what it looks, that's what it looks like on a desktop. So if someone visits a desktop, they're going to see the listing agent and Annie Agent's name there. You'll notice down below that is a Contact Premier Agent. This will not go to the KW agent unless the KW agent is a premier agent of the syndication company. Okay, so it's important that you all understand this is a win-win for both of us. It's a win-win for us. It's a win for us as KW agents because we're the only agent that is displayed on here. It's a win for the syndication partners because they still have the opportunity to sell this space. If you are looking on a mobile device, you'll notice the contact agent option is here, and it immediately brings up your contact listing agent information. And what I love about this particular treatment is that if you click on that number right there, it's going to pull up the number in that person's mobile device, and all they have to do is click dial. So it will push the visitor directly to the KW agent's phone number. And again, the Contact Premier Agent information will be listed down there. Now, please let me know if you all have any questions regarding that explanation. We want to make sure that is loud and clear. Now, this is what it would look like if you were a non-KW agent. Do you notice the difference between what is on this page and what is on this page? Can anyone on the call please tell me the difference between this page that I'm showing here and this page? What do you all notice in there that's different? And I'll highlight it while the questions are coming in. And that's right. Look at Jessica's exactly right. Look at the amount of agents. In a non-KW source listing, this is what someone else would get. This is what a non-KW agent would receive as their listing. This is what a KW agent would receive as as their listing treatment. So you'll notice we have this incredible option right there. Now, how is this of value to my sellers, you may ask yourself? Well, we have a really good script that we like to recommend to those agents that are going into the seller's appointment. So naturally, you're going to be in the seller's appointment, and you're going to explain to them that we have our own unique listing system to where their listings will show on all 130,000 agents' websites, all 800 plus office websites, and all of the other exposure opportunities. We also explain to them that our KWLS syndicates to the major syndication portals such as Trulia and Zillow. Now, one of the things you need to remember is your sellers are much smarter than they've ever been. And they may stop you in the middle of that conversation and say, well, Mr. Agent, I appreciate what you're saying, but doesn't your MLS syndicate to the syndication companies? And don't all of the offices, any real estate office, have the opportunity to send their listings to Zillow and Trulia? So why is that an advantage for me? This is your answer, ladies and gentlemen, and this is extremely powerful because there is no one else that can say this. There is no other real estate company that can use this script. And that script is this. That's a great question, a great statement, Mr. and Mrs. Agent, and you're exactly right. Everybody does syndicate, but let me ask you this. Let's say that someone is on a syndication site, such as the one we're looking at now, and someone comes across your listing. Do you want them to be able to contact just any agent that might be the highest bidder in the area that really doesn't have any investment in the listing, really doesn't have much to gain by selling the listing? Or do you want those individuals to come across the agent that knows the most about the listing, has the most invested in the listing, and honestly has the most to gain by selling the listing? Now, who do you all think they would choose? And those answers are coming in pretty rapidly, and you're exactly right. They are going to choose the Keller Williams agent, because when you're with Keller Williams, that's exactly what you get. You get to contact the agent who has invested the most in the listing and has the most to gain from selling the listing. All right, hopefully you all took a little something away from that. Now, let's talk about the Keller Williams listing landing page. Every Keller Williams listing gets its own unique listing landing page, and this is what it looks like. So if you are, this is not what it looks like, this is how you get to it. If you are on KW.com, you'll notice I have the arrow pointed to the More Options button. If you click on More Options and expand that, now you'll see the option called Quick Search. If you click on Quick Search, you will be taken to the Keller Williams KWLS page. If you were to click on any one of these listings, or if you were to do a search for one of your own listings on this KWLS search site, you will come across something that looks like this. This is the KWLS listing landing page. Now you'll notice this listing landing page has just about everything someone would need if they were looking at a listing. You have links to virtual tours. You'll notice all kinds of calls to action. Of course, the details of the listing are in there, including the price, beds, baths, and so forth. You can add up to 30 additional photos in the KWLS. So if your MLS doesn't provide a lot of opportunities for photos, here's your opportunity. And then, of course, we can accommodate 4,000 keywords for search engine optimization. Most MLSs don't allow that many keywords. And then, of course, you will have all of your featured properties showing up on this listing landing page. A little bit further down the page, you have a Google map of your listing. And then, of course, additional property features, your bedrooms, baths, lot sizes, and so forth. One other thing the listing landing page gets is a unique URL. So once you're on the listing landing page, if you look on the top of the address bar, such as we're showing as an example here, you'll see the URL for that listing landing page. You could take that URL and share that with your clients. You could share it with your sphere, or of course in your social media. Now that's a fairly long link, and we have some really great suggestions on some things that you can do with this long link. You could visit a site called GOO.GL, and you'll see the name of it right there, GOO.GL. If you go to http://GOO.GL, then you will have the opportunity to shorten this long link. So this is where we paste the long link. We click Shorten URL, and now this is the URL we can market. Now typically you want a URL to be simple. You want it to be able to roll off the tongue. You want to be able to tell somebody a URL in an elevator or in a grocery store line, and they can remember it when you leave. Now, naturally, if we look at this big long URL, it's a little bit difficult to remember. Even if we shorten it, you'll notice that even if we shorten it to the GOO.GL/SMN lowercase z lowercase g3, that would also be very difficult for someone to remember in a grocery store line or in an elevator. So here's our recommendation. And actually, this is something that you should do or can do before you go to the listing appointment. Before you go to the listing appointment, visit GoDaddy or the KW domain store or whomever your domain host is and purchase their address.info. So in this example, we purchased 2719 highpointdrive.info. And you'll notice we forwarded that domain name to the custom listing landing page for the KWLS. Now, naturally, before you visit the listing appointment, you're not going to have the listing landing page. So have one that's available as an example. Then you can have this script. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I already own your address.info. That way, if anybody asks about information on your property, all you have to do is give them your address.info and it will take them to a listing landing page that looks just like this. And you give them an example of what it would look like. They're going to think that you are really, really good at marketing their listing because you're thinking outside of the box. Buying a domain name like this before the listing appointment will only cost you less than $4, just depending on what domain host you are. That is a really great opportunity. Question came in, why info versus com? One, it's a lot less money. Two, it's not a website, it's a web page. It's basically information. Now, if we were to take that URL, have some stickers made, we could put that on our sign writer. And then that sign writer, we could maybe not actually forget some flyers in there. That way people are forced to go to the domain name on their mobile device or on their PC, on their iPad, and get directly to the listing information that they're looking for. All right, and then here's some things that you need to know about the KWLS to make sure it's always working properly. We have what we call the expiry date in the KWLS. Now, this is only if you are List Hub enabled. What will happen with a listing that comes through that is List Hub enabled is the expiration date that is on the original listing in the MLS will get changed to 14 days from the day that the listing is in the KWLS. That is a safety measure so that when we mark that listing as sold, as off the market, or any of those, that means that that listing will stop feeding, and then it will expire in the KWLS, so it's no longer syndicating. It's really a safety measure. So don't go into the KWLS and change the expiration date. It will always be 13 days out. So from that day, unless the listing is no longer marked as active, then it will start to go through the expiration process. If you notice that you have listings that are expired, simply go into them and mark them as sold. Also, we have what we call locking your field description. So if you are having a listing that's feeding through and you have put in a 4,000 character description, you're not going to want the 200 character description that's allowed from the MLS to come in. So we're going to check this box to lock the description fields. That's how we make sure those fields do not get overwritten. The same thing with photos. If we're going to add photos, then we lock the images down for photos as well. That way, if you've added additional photos, the 10 photos that are in the MLS will not override the 30 that are in here. All right, here's what's on your action plan. We're just about out of time. Send any questions that you all have. First, make sure your MLS ID and your list hub, if available, are activated. Check your listings exposure on syndication sites. In fact, I just got a response from Kyle letting me know that HGTV front door was retired according to the site. Another perfect example, Kyle, of syndication companies coming and going. Thank you so much. And then understanding the expiration date and locking down. Those are the action items that you all want. All right. David said, lost my sound on my end briefly. Must ListHub be enabled to be selected for Zillow syndication? The answer to that is no, David. The KWLS will syndicate to Zillow and Trulia and to ListHub regardless if you're in ListHub enabled. The only reason you check the ListHub box is so that you don't have to enter your listing twice, once in the MLS, then in the KWLS. If you don't have ListHub, or if it's not enabled, you have to add it to the MLS, then add it to the KWLS in order for it to be available. All right, Kyle, great question. Should watermarks be used? In other words, photo branding. So here's the reality, Kyle. The reality is with KW websites or with the KWLS, you absolutely can brand your listings because we're no longer tied to MLS rules. However, once those listings leave the KWLS and they start hitting other syndication sites, that's when we tend to break the rules on branding. Other syndication sites do not allow branding. So if they were only showing up on, let's say, KW.com under the KWLS search, then absolutely. They could absolutely be branded, and they still can be branded because it is your data. The risk is once that data starts feeding to other syndication sites, then your branding becomes a problem because now you're breaking their rules. All right, and that was the last question I received. Unless there are any more, please let me know. I'll give you guys just about another minute. Otherwise, I will let you go. All right, doesn't look like I'm getting any other questions in. Hey, I want to thank you all very much for being a part of today's presentation. And as always, we want you to stay on the edge of real estate technology by using KW technology, and please make it a great day at Keller Williams. Thanks for being here.